to what's important to the community, the mission of the community, and we have learned to be very good listeners and collaborative, very transparent. We're very excited to work with Frontline on this initiative, as well as get to know more folks from the community. We're never so bold as to believe that we know what's exactly right for any particular initiative when it's in our backyard, such as this, or if it's in New York or Wisconsin or Virginia or other places where we've had the good fortune to work. So as Kevin mentioned, we're very much aligned on the way we look at projects, care about communities, and could not be happier and more proud to be here with you this evening.
Excellent. So I really appreciate, again, not only the team that I have the honor of working with, but also this catalytic and truly exceptional project that we are in the early phases of bringing to life. And so as we laid out in the agenda and as Angela overviewed, we're really looking forward to listening twice as much as we're talking and really finding the ability to calibrate on our direction and where we're headed vis-a-vis kind of community feedback. So that's the real purpose of today, is to bring you not only the update on who the team is that's going to be working on this really exciting project, but also sharing our direction, where we're at this phase, and really listening to reactions, feedback, and insights that this group can provide to us to take back and continue to make sure that this project is reflective of the community's needs, vision, and insights. And so, where I would, highlight that there's a breadth and wealth of experience that this team has coming together in its aggregate, but really want to take a minute to overview the project on where and how we're seeing it, and then kind of flow a little bit more of our current status and next steps. So for purposes of, and I think we're on the overview slide, right? Oh, okay, I can go back to that, that's fine.
I can go to the overview. I'm sorry. And then just while we have a pause for a second, I did want to let everyone know that we are recording this session so that others who were not able to participate will be able to get the information as well.
Great, thank you for that.
Okay.
So the project that we're talking about and what really, brings us together here tonight is around, this amazing site that has been, the former site of Dave's Supermarket, located right in the heart of Asiatown, in Midtown, and in a very important kind of neighborhood for not only the residents that surround it, but I would offer for the city and the region. And recognizing and listening to a number of perspectives, points of view, and stakeholders in the community, recognizing that time is of the essence on making sure that we turn that former site of Dave's into something that's vibrant, that is able to revitalize and bring activity to the neighborhood, and really take the legacy and frankly the history that the Saltzmans have committed to this community in a variety of ways, and really take it to the next level. And so we're excited to come together. Our first kind of the way that we're approaching this project as we sit here tonight, I know that we are recognizing that the time sensitivity to the Dave's structure itself is something that we've heard loud and clear, and that's really represents our first phase of this project. Taking the existing structure that has been underutilized here for the last year, and really visioning, engaging, retrofitting, and bringing together life from that structure. And if you will recall there, and we'll overview here in a second, that there's some additional parcels no doubt around, and that will really represent our second phase to this work. But our first one we're really excited about is bringing in tenants and activity to the existing Dave structure that is vibrant and engaging. And so before we went out to market, and before we kind of were on Front Street talking about this, we really had intentionality of coming to this group first, kind of sharing where we are, demonstrating kind of the direction of where we're headed, and then listening to reactions before we even brought it to the larger community. And so we are eager and excited to show the world and prospective tenants the viability and exciting aspects of this structure and the site. And so we're really framing the first phase of what is a retrofit of Dave's supermarket into what will be a vibrant part of a larger mixed-use community, but really looking to center the existing structure and putting it back into production with an office and services vision, whether that's nonprofit services coming into the structure, whether that is prospective tenants that are employers. We really want to bring activity back to the neighborhood and bring safety, security, and vibrancy through the existing Dave structure. And so when we talk about phase one, that's the nature of what we're conceptualizing is the existing structure retrofitted and brought back to life in a new vibrant shell. And then our subsequent phases will be looking at bringing additional housing and some potential commercial retail into some of the subsequent parcels that are across the street currently in parking lot phase. And so for tonight's focus, what we really wanted to drill down on is both provide the phasing and the timelines. So we are in the first phase looking to bring activity and revitalization to the Dave structure. And we want to go out to the market and tell all of the wonderful things about Asiatown. And when you look to the neighborhood where it's situated, just as a lot of attractive features to how we might be able to evaluate all of the interests that will be no doubt, interested in the site, and really then having rubrics and frameworks to evaluate what's the highest and best use. What are the type of tenants that the community wants to see? How do we make sure that we're squaring and calibrating the type of market interest that we know will be there against what is most important to the community? And I think Randy said it really well. We are not so bold as to assume what that is. We want to, one part, bring it to market and see what the interest is. At the same point, we want to make sure that we have anchored on the uses and vision of the community such that we can be making decisions in an informed manner. So for phase one, and as you see on the slide for those that can see it, we see this as top tier office space that we really want to know who's interested. And from that, I think our process will be coming back to this group and evaluating that interest against what are potential uses that align to the community. And as I said before we even do any of that, we wanted to take this time tonight before we went out public and really show, preview, overview, and also seek input and insights. And so if we go to that's right. So we have some preliminary visioning of what type of kind of aesthetic, and again, this is directional correctness here, and we're showing you an early vision in, is that we want to bring light and vibrancy into this existing structure. And where it says office today, we want to know, and part of what we'll do here in a breakout session in a minute, is you want to hear who in your vision should, could, and might be in there. What is the interest, services, and businesses that you might want to see located in this structure? And then concurrently and subsequently, we're going to be continually engaging this group and a larger group to make sure that subsequent phases, this phase, is really calibrated with community as its heart and soul. And so I think if we go to the next slide, we recognize that this isn't just an off-the-shelf development. We're not looking to take something that we already planned for, tenants that we already had relationships in, and bring it kind of off the shelf. We're really taking this incremental approach, working with community to bring forward visions that align with where we are, or where the community is. And so with that, I would say we recognize the value of the culture and the history and the neighborhood here. And we also recognize that there is a lot of incredible assets that Asiatown has that many people in the larger market don't realize. And so we see this as an opportunity to both kind of raise the profile, highlight the things that are amazing in this community, and at the same point, evaluate interests and market kind of temperature around who might fit best in the structure. And we do that with a culture and community lens. And I think we have one more slide that's similar to this. If we click to the, great. There is a culture and community point, but I think what you're hearing from us is to say, we're really excited and looking forward to this as a function of, we've done a lot of work on the kind of early teaming, making sure that we have right fit, right collaboration, and we couldn't be happier with the team that we have together. We then recognize the ability that the communities need to have this structure, not with plywood, but with vibrant look, feel, aesthetic. We want to do that first, and that is what we're endeavoring to do here. And so we want to go out to the market. And so tonight, I will highlight and underscore again the value here of everyone's time is to both share with you this and where we're at, as well as prompt you with a few questions that we would love to have your answers to, as we then take it to that next phase of bringing it ready for a larger introduction into the market. Let me stop there and see if there's any questions of my teammates, anything I left out, or if we want to move to the next phase.
Hey, Kevin, can you hear me okay?
Perfect, loud and clear.
So let me just mention one thing, and thank you so much for that. That I don't think anybody could have said it better themselves. I do want to take a moment and recognize the Saltzmans in tonight's discussion. They have, when they built their new store down the road, they had made a commitment to the community that they would only sell this building to a team that cared about the neighborhood, that continued their meaningful legacy of providing food and services to this community. And, you know, many other people may have simply sold their building to whether it was a dollar store or a thrift store or something that might not necessarily add, you know, universal value to the area. They have been very specific with us in terms of what we are able to do with this building. So I think just an acknowledgement to the Saltzmans and you know, their loyalty, continued loyalty and attachment to this community to make sure that whatever's done with the building is best for each of you.
Great, thank you, Randy. Anything else from our team that we want to highlight that I may have missed?
Nope.
Mute here. Okay. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
It's Marcia. Okay. I'd like to see the St. Clair Superior neighborhood included in this project. It's not very sexy right now, but it has, it's an economic engine. Ward 10, which is north of St. Clair, has lots and lots of businesses. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in our neighborhood. And though it's not as developed or as sophisticated Midtown, I can tell you that a lot of businesses that reach a certain point in our neighborhood would begin looking at this site for relocation. And we get a lot of calls every week for people looking for offices and that sort of thing. And so to include St. Clair Superior, the neighborhood, in this project would be great as part of the economic base.
Absolutely, Marcia. We definitely agree.
Okay. I have to leave because I have another Zoom meeting, so that's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Marcia. And we'll be setting up that meeting with you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we are now at the community voice part, and this is the part where it's extremely important to really hear from the community. When we talk about the community, I remember as a little girl, I came to the United States. My family came here in 1975. And I recall when, you know, Asian Plaza was first opened and the excitement. for our family, you know, when that first opened up, to be able to, you know, go to the jeweler and be able to shop. And so it's important that we really capture the voice of the community, both the residents and the other stakeholders there. This is a breakout. So there are 2 discussion prompts. One, I think it was very important to really find out from people, what does Asia Town really mean to you? You know, is it the people? Is it the place? Is it a destination, or is Asia Town defined by the space? And then the second prompt, as we, you know, prepare to go out to market, to make sure that we're also aligning with what's important to the community, is finding out what are the most important things we should be looking for when we're bringing businesses and services to Asia Town. So these are the 2 prompts, and the members of our team will break out, and Sheila, and into breakout rooms.
Welcome back, everyone.
So I hope everyone enjoyed their breakout session. I know ours was very interesting. And we got a lot of great input and feedback. So if we could ask, well, we can start with our group. So if Scott, you could present out.
Sure. Thanks, Angela. We had a very great discussion, some really good feedback. I'll just kind of run through some of the things we discussed in no particular order. You know, so describe what Asia Town means to you. Some of the talking points we had: it's a meeting place for business and friends. It's a safe place that provides a comfort level to its residents. I think one of the topics we got on was, you know, our group did not want to see the culture pushed out that already exists, and to maintain the Asian culture and the feel, and to be very careful of gentrification of the area. It was a place to connect with culture and experience authentic food. And again, yeah, we had another note on maintaining the Asian culture. As far as what amenities, what we should be bring services, businesses to Asia Town, we got on that topic. We got on a discussion about housing, and the lack of affordable housing, and also a lack of housing product that would appeal to a young professional. It seems like, you know, we understand this too, a lot of that housing might be geared more towards the center of Cleveland, with the amenities that young professionals want. So, you know, having a housing product that's appropriately priced and also with the amenities that young professionals want was extremely important. Safety is a huge concern. It sounds like one of the comments we had was when the old Dave's was there, that provided a sense of safety, it provided activity, there were people on the streets. So, you know, I think there's been a feeling that safety might have regressed since Dave's has left. One of the comments we had was that Asia Town's missing kind of like a good bar scene. There's no place to just, you know, grab a drink. People might have to go to other neighborhoods like downtown Ohio City, Tremont, to kind of have a later night culture. So missing a good bar scene. There was also a lack of any good coffee shop just for meetings in the morning. So we heard that. We talked a little bit about having a service like the Downtown Cleveland Alliance, maybe extending into the Asia Town market just to provide, you know, cleaning services, security, safety, all the things that they provide kind of in the downtown CBD core. And then finally, childcare services may be needed. Asian appropriate childcare services.
Okay. All right. Did anyone have any questions based on Scott's report out? Okay. Shin, would you like to report out?
Sure. 姐姐，你需要我跟你讲一下刚刚就是他们说了什么吗？还是？
我知道他们在讲什么，我们都在听。就是我觉得哈，这个最重要的关键还是人少，这个地方人不那么多，这个是最重要的。对，而且呢，对，就是这个比较重要的，好吗？
好。So for our group, we for the first question, and most people think this is a community for them, a place that they call home. what we have in the second discussion is people think they really need the traffic in the community because this is such a central place. They want this is a space can have a go-to place for gathering, no matter it's indoor or outdoor. A gathering space like a park is really needed for the family who have senior and kids, and something that can bring, the seniors like an exercise place, because the Dave's used to be there, the senior will just walk there to have their daily grocery shopping. They also talk about the safety, and at the central place, like it's really need to think about how to make this like practical action to really bring people to Asiatown and to have more traffic circulate in the avenue in the community. And we're also talking about as a building how we can attract more people from a suburb also to this community, and just want to think about in the future how can really use this space to make this community thrive. Did I miss anything from our group? Then I think that's our discussion.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And I guess the third group, I believe that's Dennis.
I think I'll take a shot at it. A lot of the same things that was from the previous two groups, but
Wait a minute. Hey, Dennis, we can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Okay, that's better.
Sorry.
Thank you.
A lot of the very similar themes from the previous two comments. What we heard was Asiatown needs to reflect our culture. Michael was saying, it's home to him. He spends half his time on the East Coast and West Coast and half his time in Cleveland. And Asiatown is. He'd really like to see, the Asiatown exposed to other Clevelanders that may not be aware of what's going on in the culture. He talked about inclusion and identity. Lisa dittoed most of Michael's comments. She talked about her family history. Food was a common theme from everybody just about. I think Lisa mentioned the fact that we can't forget about Rockwell being one of the original Asian neighborhoods, smaller, but I guess preceded, this is a question, of the current Asiatown. What connection between the Rockwell area and the current Asiatown is relevant. Wayne mentioned everything from the passion to see the neighborhood thrive. The other point that Wayne meant, which I think is relevant, is what does this mean 20, 30, 40 years from now? What's the vision going forward? We just can't think about right now. We have to think about the future, which I thought was very relevant. Much like what we heard from other folks about the strong roots and family ties are critical and important. Let me see what else. Chun Yen said, she wants this to be the place to be. She wants it to be well established and attract other in the community. Another theme that we heard that was reflected was safety and comfort. We heard safety from everybody. Michael jumped back in again and talked about it'd be nice to see outside investment come into the community because so far Asiatown has succeeded based on the shoulders of investors who live and work in Asiatown. So it's nice to see outside investors get engaged. Wayne mentioned, and my words, not his, I interpreted this, don't dilute our culture, that, we don't want to see all of a sudden McDonald's and Burger Kings and those kind of things. So don't dilute the culture aspect of the community. I asked the question, what don't you want to see in the community? And we heard from things like Steve said, avoid halfway homes, addiction, rehab centers, homeless shelters. That's something that no one wants to see. Lisa mentioned again, multi-purpose rooms and opportunities for community involvement in a multi-purpose area. Wayne reiterated safety once again. Karis suggested, it'd be nice to see, educational opportunities, whether it's daycare or whether it's, elementary schools and those kind of things that have a Chinese bent to it. And I think Susan wrapped it up by talking about safety and, the ability to kind of, if there's a lot of businesses that are open 24/7, that, you don't feel unsafe getting out of your home or walking through the community later in the evening. I think that's about everything.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
So, repeatedly, we've been kind of communicating as a team. We continue to hear the importance of maintaining the integrity of the culture, which is nice to hear. I've also heard a couple of times about food. I heard somebody bring up kind of a bar scene. In terms of food, it's not our current direction, but I hear things like gathering spaces, food, potentially, a bar scene. I'm not sure we're talking about a bar scene, but maybe a place that has, entertainment and some alcoholic options. Do we think there's a need for additional food offerings, not grocery store, but food offerings, different type of restaurant, or and again, there's some restrictions with the Dave's sale to us, but I'm just curious if there was kind of a blank slate, would people want to see some sort of a different type of restaurant offering, bar offering that's maybe combined with some gathering space? Is that kind of a universal desire, or is that just a few people? Can we get a sense of that?
This is Michael. I mean, as someone who is part of Dennis's group, I might just add a quick thought. The answer to that, I think, depends on the nature of the food and beverage. I think the reason that you're hearing a little bit about bars or places that I would say some of us believe would attract different and new people to the Asiatown area, I think that would be good. I think that, anytime that there's a growth area or a way to grow a market, I think I think Asiatown would certainly want to do that, and the community would want that. But that would mean things that appeal to maybe something other than what's already available. So I think right now there isn't as much of a nightlife scene. Hopefully that changes, because that does bring generally new retail, generally the 20 to 35-year-old demographic, and those things are, again, generally good for a community in terms of economic growth. So at least from my perspective, where it comes from is food and beverage, to the extent it's additive and attracts new members of new people and customers from Cleveland to Asiatown, and gives a vibrancy to the development. That would be the suggestion.
Thank you, Michael. Others?
In terms of a gap in the food, the Asian food options in Asiatown, it appears that South Asians are not represented. There are no South Asians, so there are no Indian food restaurants in the Asiatown area. I do come from a different perspective in terms of bar scenes, simply because I hear over and over about safety, and I don't know whether or not there's some correlation. And I'm sure that there's some studies by organizations that have dedicated themselves to determining whether there's a correlation. But in my mind, at least, it seems like if things are open really late, or if there's too much alcohol, it seems like there are. It can also bring crime, which is a safety issue that seems to be reflected in all three groups.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your input and sharing your voices. And I think we're going to move to questions. There we go. All right. Do we have any questions before we start to wrap up?
This is Wayne Wong. I missed just the beginning of the meeting, and perhaps you guys already covered this, but what is the timeline? What's the overall plan and strategy? This is kind of like an initial meet and greet, and it was very helpful and useful, but can you just give a broad overview in terms of what the plan actually is?
Yeah,
timeline-wise?
Yeah, appreciate the question.
Sure.
And I would say two things. So one, as a hallmark of what this team is committing to is, community engagement is the tent pole that we operate from as we're bringing this project forward. And so really making sure that we're continually bringing at various times that are, we're not coming fully baked to show you something. We're actually really listening and calibrating on what we hear as we are preparing to go to market. But the overall arc of what we're doing, we've looked at this project and we see it in two phases. And the first phase is taking the existing structure of Dave's, retrofitting it and bringing vibrancy and the right tenants in to help kind of kickstart the activity in this neighborhood around both this structure and the 3 corresponding parking lots. Now, the subsequent phase that we're looking at, and we will be bringing back to this group early, around the types of housing that we're looking for and getting very detailed and understanding where the market is, where it could be. I know our group talked about the kind of suburban opportunity of getting folks back to Asiatown. So we want to be very intentional of what that looks like and how do we both frame it, design it, and implement it. And so there is some additional, no doubt, engagement opportunities around the second phase of this, which will be more geared towards housing and commercial retail. But for this first phase, what we're prioritizing is taking the structure that is currently underutilized and revitalizing it with vibrancy and the right tenants to help support the neighborhood's vision. And so our timeline as it relates to that, I think it dovetails well on where we are at. We want to go showcase the hallmarks and the kind of amazing offerings that this neighborhood has, that this property has. And when I say property, I'm talking specifically about the Dave's structure, and see what type of tenant opportunities we could have. And I think then as we begin to hear the interest, catalog what is potentially viable, we would want to bring back to this group an update, a summary that says, here's what we're hearing, here's what we're feeling, and really calibrating again the go forward play. From a timeline and a calendar standpoint, we look to have a very solid line of sight by the 4th quarter on the first phase of this, meaning the who, what are the tenants, how could we revitalize this, against what timeline? And then looking to 2021 would be taking down and really grappling with, and some of this is in parallel, but really 2021 for the subsequent development that happens in the parking lot immediately if you're looking at Dave's south of the Dave's structure as it sits today. We set, in pre-development, still got some more wood to chop to make sure that we're getting the parameters and the thinking back to this group. But Wayne, to answer your question, I think from a timeline standpoint, we look to bring this to market sooner rather than later. So looking to, next week. But before we did that, we really wanted to make sure that this group saw what we were doing, understand who the team is, recognize that we're very collaborative in our DNA. And we want to make sure that this works for all of us, neighborhood, as well as the vibrancy that we see. So I say that to say, briefing, socializing it here today, going to market to see what type of interest and where businesses and tenants could be, continuing in that community engagement, bringing back what we're hearing, using this as our brain trust and our kitchen cabinet, but really looking to then start to do the bricks and sticks and the kind of retrofitting, and towards the Q4, Q1, and then subsequently in 2021, really taking down and doing the next phase of that work, bringing advancing both housing and commercial retail as part of a subsequent phase.
All right.
Oh, I have a quick question. Have you spoken with any commercial brokers about your prospective office project?
And I would say at a very high level prior, as we put this team together, as you heard at the front end, it was really intentional to make sure that we both kind of as the right players to lead this project. And I think we've solved for that and really excited about this team. And then kind of designing some of the material, which we've been doing, and kind of lining up, all of the various pieces of environmental assessments and pieces to make sure that we're tight. And now we're at the place where we really want to bring it to the brokerage community. And again, I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but before we did that, as a commitment to the community, we wanted to make sure that stakeholders were learning about it from us first, as opposed to hearing whispers or talks in the community from brokers. And so first step here, socialize, everybody aware, record it, transparency, collaboration. But to answer your question, coming to them is the next step as we more formally engage. Earlier on, I think we've had random anecdotal kind of what is the brokerage community talking and thinking about kind of sidebar. We have yet to come to market with a package, which we are about to do, but haven't yet done that formally.
I have a question. A lot of what we heard today, whether it was in the big group or the smaller group, is what people want Asiatown to continue to be is, in fact, Asian. People said more South Asian restaurants, more authentically Asian coffee shops or bars or whatever it may be. And that task is easier said than done, certainly. That would take a few different efforts. So I want to know, to the powers that be, the people who are the ones deciding what businesses come in, what effort is going to be put in to either find those entrepreneurs, or and if they are found, is there a willingness to bring those in, even if it comes at a smaller profit?
What was the last? If it comes at, I didn't hear the last sentence.
A smaller profit, because for instance, you might have an Asian American who wants to start a business, but they can't necessarily afford the lease the way McDonald's might. Is there a willingness to provide a cheaper lease to someone like that versus giving it to the highest bidder at any cost?
Sure. So I could tell you that none of us are involved in this project. And this project is a way to become rich and retire. This is a true passion project, both for the building itself and for the neighborhood. There are some economic realities to this when it comes to investing equity and finding bank debt. But there are also a number of other factors. So if it was somebody that wanted to start up a coffee house and they had, some experience, we do think we have a commitment to the community to focus on tenants who can offer a good product, hire good people, have a good manager, so that they're sustainable. But clearly we are, if you look at any of our projects throughout the country, while we're proud of the national tenant relationships, we have a number of local and regional tenants. It's an important piece of our project. Any project, it adds a very important flavor. So getting back to the coffee shop, if it was a coffee operator who had the experience, maybe couldn't, pay market rent, but had saved some money that they could build out their own space, for example, or we could pair them up with available grants. I think every one of us would be very open to that. But again, there are economic realities, not that we're so focused on, but there are banks and other investors that do care about that. So we do as a group. We're champions of local entrepreneurs, people who kind of put their heart and soul and live and breathe and sleep their business day in and day out. I think it's going to be on a case by case basis, but large answer is that is something we'd be very interested in.
I just want to offer one comment about food. I think at any other time, that would probably be the top thing on my list to recommend. Other comments have already been expressed in terms of trying to add diversity in terms of cuisine options. And certainly when you talk to other Clevelanders about the Asiatown neighborhood, the first thing they talk about, of course, is how wonderful the food is, and that's why they come to Asiatown. However, currently, I think we're in a very interesting time where many of the existing businesses have gone through really tough times in the last several months. First, just because of, I think, racist perceptions, but then later because of shutdowns and so forth. And I think it's going to take some time once this pandemic is over for those existing businesses to get back on their feet. So I think while I still endorse and am in favor of having additional food options and food varieties, I think it needs to be done in a strategic way, to not necessarily suddenly just have a 25% increase in food options in the neighborhood that is going to be actually, I think, perhaps more hurtful in the near term. In terms of long term, again, that's why I was asking about the timeline. At what point does this organization plan on starting to open up opportunities? And I think keeping in mind where we are economically and keeping in mind the other businesses in the neighborhood should at least be considered.
I had a thought about, is there a way to think about businesses that are really supporting entrepreneurs, building new businesses, like, say, a kitchen incubator kind of idea. So it's really integrating with what potential there might be in the neighborhood for people to develop their own businesses, not necessarily restaurants, but maybe food available for retail in different markets, maybe even in the Dave's over on Chester. So something along those lines. And then for the office space, I was curious about, with the trends I keep reading about, like office spaces, sort of going by the wayside. And I'm just curious about what are new models for office space. And again, with entrepreneurs in mind, like the shared workspace, that sort of idea. I don't know how commercially viable those are, but maybe partnerships with other organizations to make them more viable.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm happy to take a. Oh, go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, I just want to be respectful of people's time, and I think the status of both where we are and what I really appreciate both from I don't know if it's Gabriel or Gabriel, but Gabe, Mr. Kramer, that asked the question around kind of how do we track both what is and how, what are the trade-offs. I think that's absolutely the right question that we're going to continue to ask. We're at the first stage here, and Lisa, to your point of like, what does the future post-COVID look like? What do office spaces? What is the market? And for us to evaluate that, our first step is to put something out there so people can react to, and for us to then get stuff on the table to come back to this group and to kind of transparently show kind of here are the different options and configurations that we're looking for. Because as much as there may be an amazing kind of small business that wants to come in and they want 2,000 square feet of a 45,000 square foot structure, we have to figure out what those puzzle pieces are, right? It's very different if there was 10 or 5, and we could hypothetically kind of configure here. I think what you're hearing from the team is that we're very eager to hear what the market is interested in. We're very interested to see what type of innovative solutions people come together, be that the hand stacking of small businesses that have a model, be that through your conventional actors. We want to put it all on the table. And we don't come again with a bias of saying profit first. We don't come with a bias of saying we already know what we want to do. It's a process to which we're taking incrementally, which is allowing people to share, see what the market reacts to, and then allow us to then kind of collaboratively come to a vision of what and how we can move, into the vibrant placemaking, safety advancing development that we're all kind of shared and committed to. So I know that we're 50% overtime, and I apologize for that, but I really want to take the time from the development team side to say I really appreciate not only your time, but the really thoughtful and intentional feedback that you've given us, insights. I know one of my homework assignments, I want to go look into the Rockwell history there. Appreciate folks just sharing, right? That's important kind of content for us to learn, hear, and advance. So I appreciate everybody's time. And again, just kind of summarizing the answer that I gave to Wayne is to say, we're early in the process as a function of what this is going to be. And that's very intentional because we wanted to share early, now go out and in the next 2 to 3 weeks, working with Midtown and St. Clair Superior and others, we want to make sure that we're convening again, coming back to share updates, details with the right questions. And so what you can be looking for from us is additional engagement opportunities over the next month to help kind of hear, listen, and also share. And then continue to bring, whether it is business models or nonprofits or service folks that are doing this work that would be a great fit. We need to hear that. That's the type of end user and kind of content that we're really looking for this group to help us with. So again, in summary, just on behalf of the team, and I'll let anybody else jump in, I just really want to say thank you. I know 5 o'clock with all the stuff that's going on is not always an easy time to convene, but I really appreciate the time. And I think we have some great content to digest here.
I also want to say thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your evening. And if you would like to reach out to us with additional comments, feedback, questions, our email address is right on the screen. So feel free to take that down and reach out. But again, thank you so much. And thanks to Midtown for working with us and all of your time and efforts into this effort. Thank you. Karis?
Sure, nothing really to add. Just thank you all for spending the time, taking the time to share your thoughts. Really good to see all of you. If you'd like to continue to be connected, Angela just gave their email. I'm going to drop my email into the chat too, if you'd like to stay connected. And also, if you'd like to leave your contact information and for us to follow up with you with updates or future meetings, please do drop your contact info in the chat, either directly to me or in general. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right. Good night. Take care.